evening, Cubers of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and joining me as always every Thursday night in the co-host seat, we have Digger Jim. How you doing tonight, Jim?
Doing great. Starting my weekend off right with you great fellas.
And we couldn't wait to get him back, but this time as a co-host. We have Sector2815 Paul. How you doing tonight, Paul?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me back. I am now in a less hot seat.
Right. Well, now you get to grill your buddy, right? And of course, the man of the hour this evening, the person we're here to learn more about, we have Mark from Legion of Comics. Good evening, Mark. How you doing, sir?
Okay, good.
Nice. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me on the show. I appreciate it.
Now, we're going to do my normal, right? Give the quick 2 minutes of who you are. We'll say hi to the audience, and then we'll come back and start asking you the hard-hitting, not very hot questions.
Does it have to be 2 minutes?
No, it could be as long as you want. It could be shorter.
I'm Mark. I have a YouTube channel called Legion of Comics.
Right. Oh, but I thought you'd want to mention that you have a print that you guys are promoting right now with Comics Curing Cancer.
We do, but that's not who I am.
Okay,
Yeah, that's true.
Do I give you my life story at this part of the show, or just say that? Like, I don't know. I need more direction.
Yeah, it's fine. We can roll with anything. We're easy.
Tell us about when you were just a little Legionnaire.
All right, I'm Mark. I'm 36. My eyes are blue. I'm 5'10" sometimes, and I'm a second-generation collector. I learned about comics and my passion for comics at a young age because my dad's been collecting since 1962, and I grew up in the hobby. Can't remember a day in my life where there weren't comics in my household. So I've just always loved this stuff. I've always had it in my blood. My first job was at my LCS, and if I live a good life, I'll die with my PC and pass it on to my kids, like I expect my father to do.
There you go. Nice. And just
at the appropriate time.
A little shout out to Papa, who has one of the best sales pages on Instagram.
Yeah.
The best what?
I said shout out to you guys too. It's one of the best sales pages on Instagram.
Yeah, there's about to be a metric crap ton of new stuff hitting that. I just when you dropped off the kids today, I traded in my kids for a giant bag of comics that are about to get posted.
Nice even trade.
Yeah.
All right, let's say hi to the audience tonight. We have Las Cruces. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you. We have Brian LCS. Good evening, Brian. We have John's Comics with Kids. Oh, man, John, that X-Men was so good. So good.
Cyclops is goated.
Oh, and what I just have to say.
Can we just talk about that?
Yeah, the opening, that first episode, what badass introductions with Cyclops and Storm.
Right.
I called Pops last night at 11:30 at night as I'm laying down. I'm like, hey, like, you know me, I'm not an easy sell. And I don't care if you watch the whole series, but watch the first episode of this new X-Men. It's a 10 out of 10 because 11 out of 10 isn't an option. I said, just the opening scene will send it. And I've never seen Cyclops move like that. I'm like, this is amazing.
He was such a badass leader. And way to come together, team. And then to use the beam and just slow his descent was amazing.
When they're all falling, and he just looks around. Good job, team. I'll see you on the ground. Then he just lays into like, oh my God.
And he was deep. Like there was like a crater. He's like, okay.
Pop, as soon as he said to me, my X-Men, I'm watching on my phone, but I'm on my way. Like, like you convinced me. Let's go.
I was just gonna say that too. That was like the Avengers Assemble moment, right? When he goes, "Me, my X-Men," you're like, yes.
and they accomplished it with only 20 minutes. You know,
and then when they had Sunspot cornered, and it shows the villain, and you get the tell of the lightning and stuff, and you're like, oh, Storm's coming.
Yeah. It was something, man. Like I like that they're doing it in like just a few episode arcs, like every couple episodes will be a story. So like, if they play it smart, man, they can do it for everybody. Like if a little mini story ain't your jam, just take a breath and then hit the next one,
and I know Marvel's had their problems lately, but I saw nothing in these first two episodes to complain about at all. It was just amazing. And
it's yet to be determined.
Cliffhangers in the setups in episode 2 were amazing.
Yeah, and even if they decide to lean into anything heavy-handed, it'll only last for a couple episodes, and you can jump back on. Right. Like everyone's gauge is different, so if you're not feeling it, check back in 2 episodes.
I haven't watched it yet, but I heard you really don't even really need to watch the previous stuff, right? too?
No, it's not a requirement.
Bro, and if you've never watched the original stuff, you're not going to have this excitement. It's a kid's show, like it's supposed to be.
Right.
The way it flows and feels is a kid's show.
And the dialogue from the bad guy is fantastic.
I'm all for that.
Fantastic.
Completely unapologetic and just evil to the core. Joe, how you doing tonight, sir? Adam, nice to see you, buddy. Brad, good evening, sir. Who else we got in here? We have Steve White. Good evening, Steve. Mr. DJ Links. # We Are Legion.
Brother Links.
All right, nice. Chris, the comic vet. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you, buddy. Why won't it highlight? Hold on, my highlight is not working.
It doesn't like Chris.
Have you tried turning it off and turning it on again?
Is it plugged in?
It is. Actual Dracula. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you. Oh, I know, because it had like an icon that popped up before. Mr. Nick's Kicks and Comics. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you. Dale Suspense. Good evening, sir. Yeah, we got distracted with X-Men talk right away.
Yeah.
Because Mr. DVH, I went into it with no skin in the game. I went in completely like it's either good or it's bad, and I had no expectations. And
I wasn't going to watch it. I was so I love the old cartoon so much that I wasn't going to watch it. I was too nervous. Like, I don't want to watch it and get pissed off. And then I saw positive feedback, and I went over to YouTube to find a review video that had like tens of thousands of reviews, and I went straight to the comment section to get the pulse. Not one negative word. Like hundreds of comments, not one. I'm like, I'm going. I'm risking.
Yeah. So nailed it. Paul, good evening, sir. One of my all-time favorite people, Jerry the Jitterbug.
Jerry.
And I think Mr. Gorvidal, great channel that you guys should be watching. Couching and Slouching with C. Bizzle, good evening. And yeah, so good. My gosh.
Did you get Bobby?
I did. I said hi to Bob. I got Bobby early.
Mm-hmm.
Aggressively Relaxing, good evening, sir. Naman, good evening.
Naman.
I got to say hi to Bobby before we went off on our X-Men tangent.
Okay.
Perfect.
There she is again, saying hello to the chat.
Hope we do another one of those tangents before we leave.
We can. Cliff on Comics, good evening, sir. And all right, I think we are almost caught up. Tony, how you doing? And all right, but yeah. Well, this is great because Kevin, how you doing tonight, sir?
Hey.
It's just great to get excited about something that's on a cartoon and a weekly again, because it's been a while since we've had on HBO they've had some good animated series with Invincible,
right?
But there hasn't really been a Marvel one, and I'm one of the guys that's not watching Invincible, so I'm not on that.
I fell off,
but I know people are loving it, and good if it's your fandom. So we're here to learn more about Mark. Now, one of the reasons I wanted you on tonight, Mark, is for most of us, growing up in a comic-heavy household wasn't a reality for us, and you touched on it in your intro. So for you, they're always around, and I know you are heavy into DC. I also know you're a big Hulk guy, but what was it like living in a household where this was just a part of your everyday experience, where comics were just part of your environment? Because a lot of us didn't have that. So this was always something that was kind of normal for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just something you don't even think about. Especially when you're younger, they're just there. And I'm heavy DC now. I've always loved DC, but I love Marvel pretty much equally growing up. Hulk has always been my number one guy. Always. But it's just kind of in recent years that Marvel has fell off my reading. And then even more recent than that, the movies and stuff have fallen off a lot of people are getting whatever, but it's just I've always had a passion for all these superheroes, and so much so that I don't really even enjoy stuff like Invincible or The Boys. Like, I can take it in small doses, but that's cringe content to me.
I know.
Stuff. I saw back on the kids' cartoon, the X-Men '97. I would rewatch that first episode 1,000 times over before I asked to watch the next Invincible episode.
Yeah,
I like that classic superhero stuff, corny stuff.
That episode's been living in my head all day, just so
rent free. Yeah.
It's been like it was exciting. But you know, in this hobby of ours, it goes through its ups and downs. It goes through its periods where you're not excited about it at all. And then when you get some life in it, there's always a certain level of excitement because you're reading and you're enjoying your characters. But I really wanted to know, like, what was one of the first characters that you bonded with over with your dad with that you guys both were reading together?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. What did Pops bring home when you know? I mean, you didn't have no money when you was like 5 years old. What was Pops letting you read
together?
You know,
I don't think that we've ever sat down and read together like that. And this. I mean, it is what it is. Like my dad worked nights my whole life. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was my dad's lifetime law enforcement. He's retired now. He did 38 years. He was Augusta Police Department. Then they consolidated with the county department. He was a sergeant, like running a shift my whole life at nighttime. So I would get like when I had dad home and awake and doing stuff, I always had the best part of my dad, which means he wasn't sitting there reading a book. You know, we were out at a soccer game, or we were out doing this, or we were out doing that, or we were going to the comic shop. He wasn't just sitting there in a book. The memories I have of my dad reading are the same way a lot of us guys like to read. And I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean? Like you read when you can when you have kids, and that means you go to the throne room.
Right.
You red flag those books.
Now you see, I've never been a bathroom reader.
Ooh,
you should try it.
Yeah,
that's where I learned how to. That's where I learned how to rinse and repeat, Gary. And I'm not even joking.
I've never read in the bathroom. I've always just not wanted. I've never wanted to bring books in there.
You got to bring the right. It's got to be like a 32 pager. You can't do a 64 or anything like that because that's too much.
48 are pushing it. It really depends.
Yeah, exactly.
See, you only get that here, guys.
Like stuff that we bonded on, like we didn't sit down. Like my mom, like she's a retired teacher. She was the reader. She was the one like bedtime story, this and that kind of thing. But my dad captivated me with the storytelling. You know, comics isn't just a reading platform. I mean, we just sat here and we were all just like reminiscing on that X-Men cartoon, like retelling the story. You know, that story is what captivates you. Me and Paul do it every Monday on his channel. We recap a story, and that's what Pops would do for me. That would just get my imagination firing up. Where I wanted these books before I could even read them. I wanted to see the pictures and look in them, and like I knew more about these characters before I could read than I think a lot of people do after a couple of years of reading. Just because my Pops would tell me the stories. He genuinely passionate about it.
Now, were your friends comic readers too, or was it just kind of something that was solely to your household?
Friends.
Friends.
You might need to define that for him.
No, I don't really think so. Like the first close friend I had that I don't want any. I'm so full. No, I appreciate it, but we just got home from dinner.
I know, but it's that marinated steak I brought home the other day. I just wanted you to try it, please.
I'm so full from eating steak.
Okay.
I don't disagree. Friends.
Yes. if your friends are also
we were all just playing and stuff. I mean, they had like comic book toys and stuff growing up. That's what, you know, Power Rangers, X-Men, Batman, the animated series. Those were the figures that were out. So they had that kind of stuff. But as far as going to comic shops and reading, I don't know any of my friends that actually had comics.
Yeah.
And I have like neighborhood friends that I came up with through school and everything, all the way through high school and stuff with. And
yeah, and see, like I know where I grew up, like we had like one LCS that was pretty well known, but most of the area comics were kind of not talked about. You know, if you read comics, you were looked down upon. You know, which was odd.
We talked to like as kids, you know, like we talked about cartoons, like it was really the cartoon influences, you know, at that age as kids. Right. And I remember as I got older, because I had like comic T-shirts and stuff back before you could find them in Walmarts. Like Dad would order the ones that are Paul, I'm sure remembers Graffiti. That's the brand that you would get. Like I'd have comic shirts that I'd be wearing to school and stuff. And I remember the literal first time someone tried to make a comment toward me about a comic shirt. I was in 9th grade and it was in my graphic arts class or photography, one of the two. And in that elective, you're in there with like students of all grade levels.
Right.
And one of the older classmen made a comment because I had this Wicked Batman shirt on. I can't even remember what the artist was, but it wasn't a campy one whatsoever. And they go, "Oh, look at him over there with his little Batman shirt on." I looked down at it and I looked at him like, yeah, like it didn't register that she was trying to talk down to me because to me, like of course I do. You know, like, what are you talking about, weird one?
Yeah, how come you don't have one?
Yeah, I thought she was it didn't work.
To your point, Gary, you were saying, Gary, that when you were young, it was kind of if you read comics, you weren't part of the cool kids, and now that's kind of switched, with all the Hollywood movies and everything that have come out. It's like now if you're not reading comics, you're not one of the cool kids.
But for me, that like never registered. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess because the people's opinion that I cared about the most was definitely my dad, one of them, and if he's into it, there's not a chance in hell that it's not something that you know what I mean? Like that just like what other kids were into. Like I didn't give a crap about dropping your car and doing all this stuff.
And I remember because my dad was never like a huge reader, but if he was reading the comic, my dad was big into the Western comics. He loved the Westerns. He's always loved Westerns. But you were talking about the Batman t-shirt, and I remember when with that 89 Batman movie, after that movie, everyone had a Batman shirt with the symbol.
Yeah.
And now you couldn't escape it. People who never even touched the comic were wearing the Batman shirt. And that didn't even happen with the Christopher Reeve 78 Superman with Superman shirts. But something about that Batman movie coming out and everybody was wearing it.
Screen printing was invented in that decade.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you had Tim Burton, who was like one of the coolest directors ever there, right? You had Prince, who was doing the music, who was, it was like they really they took what they needed to put the hook into as many people as possible.
And just fantastic stuff. I did want to touch on your Hulk love too. Now, where did you first start experiencing Hulk? Was it comics or was it with the Lou Ferrigno TV show and Bill Bixby?
To be honest with you, it's probably the TV show was the first thing that caught my attention because that was syndicated like my entire life up until about 5 years ago. It's been syndicated. It was absolutely fascinating. I don't remember how young I was when I first saw Return of the Hulk. Pops was like big into recording stuff that comes on TV, and that used to be something fun. Wish we were at home at the right time that the show was coming on so we could hit pause during the commercials and not have the commercials on our tapes at the end of it and stuff. And he worked on like getting entire series of stuff, and that was one of them. But even before then, I thought that was awesome. And of course, Pops had the comics, but the magazine size one, Savage Hulks, like he had next to his side of the bed, he always had like a small magazine box and then some other stuff.
The Rampaging Hulks?
Yeah, the Rampaging Hulks, and he had some Frazetta covers, which he said that me and my brother were not allowed to open those. Because those high fantasy ones, you know what I mean? Right? Well, he works nights. Good call, Pops. But
you may as well put the high beam on him, right?
The Rampaging Hulk, the one where he's standing in the mouth of the giant metal fish, holding its mouth open. That one specifically, like that painted cover. Yeah, that exact book right there. Yeah. So like that was one of the first books I can remember my dad having like of Hulk and the painted cover. I'm still a sucker for painted covers.
Same. Yeah. That I don't think you could grow up in those time periods and not be a fan of them. Like they were just they made such an impression on you. Some of the early artists, not just Frazetta, but you had Earl Norm, Ken Kelly.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Earl Norm and
the Hildebrand brothers, right?
That guy he is my favorite. From him and Frazetta are my two favorite. Him, Frazetta, and
Alex Ross did the scene that changed my life, and it's still happening to this day. Like most recently, Steve Beach, like absolutely, like put him on the list with him. He's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, even people like Perillo now who are painting in our extraordinary. Selena.
Mike Horn.
Selena.
Yeah, some of her covers are amazing. And I like for some of the female artists too, like Jen Bartel kills it for me. I know everybody loves Jenny Frison, and I like her stuff too, but I think Jen Bartel is unsung in how good she is. Like, especially when she does her women's Women's Day covers. I think they're all extraordinary. But she's got a nice, sleek elegance to it. So when did you obviously you're a kid, you got into the art first. When did you start really recognizing authors and storylines that you connected with? Probably earlier than most people because you grew up with a strong reading household.
Probably when I was like, before I could read good for sure, because again, my dad, like my dad didn't talk to me about these stories like I was a kid, like, and he just would talk to me about them,
Oh, exactly.
Marv Wolfman was probably the first writer that I probably knew his name, and it was all because of Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was a life-changing story to me, as a little kid. It's still the greatest comic event that's ever happened. Nothing's even come close to it in scale and scope and magnitude. And my dad went through all 12 issues of that with me, explaining the story of that, the destroying of a multiverse. I had a concept of a multiverse before I was in kindergarten because of my dad.
Right.
And I'm being serious. It sounds funny, but
no, it doesn't. It sounds cool.
And yeah. So I was aware of who Marv Wolfman and George Perez was because of that. That doesn't mean I could go around and name their catalog and their bibliography and stuff. Right. But I knew that those were the two that created that story right there.
That's cool. Yeah.
And obviously I knew who Stan Lee was, but I feel like how everyone knows who Stan Lee is now. I knew who he was as a little kid because I was watching tapes before I could walk and read it, and he was introducing me to the cartoon I'm about to watch, just like a lot of y'all did. You know what I mean?
Right, just like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and he had the voiceover.
And how Herbie's coming out. I remember watching Herbie growing up. I knew who Herbie was before I can read and buy comics. I was watching that cartoon and stuff where Reed tricks Magneto with the wooden gun, making him think he lost his powers. Bro, this is so corny. I love it.
Oh, well, that was the thing too. Some of the cartoons back then, some of them hold up, some of them don't. But I love some of those old Fantastic Four ones. And we're talking about the Hulk. I thought that 90s Hulk cartoon I thought was great.
Let's go back before then too to the late 80s when he fought Quasimodo and stuff. Because the early 90s stuff, the Hulk show lined up with the Marvel Action Hour with the newest Fantastic Four and Iron Man
and I liked the Iron Man one. It had the Jessica Carpenter Spider-Woman in it. The Hulk one is good. You had Ghost Rider come in on it. You had She-Hulk and
with that pennant stare. Yeah, he wasn't playing.
But some great stories. So what? Obviously, you probably were a big fan of the Batman cartoons. But what were some of the lesser known ones that people don't know about you that you really connected and grew up with that you were just really attached to?
Cartoon wise?
Yeah, cartoon wise.
There's the standard stuff I'd catch when I was on Doug and stuff like that. Whatever was right. I feel weird saying it thanks to that documentary that dropped today, but whatever was dropping on Nickelodeon at the time, we didn't have Disney Channel when I was growing up. We had Nickelodeon. I didn't even think or care about Disney Channel. I'd catch some of it.
Nickelodeon was after me.
Nickelodeon was popping though, man. All that, Are You Afraid of the Dark and all that kind of stuff on the weekends. But I remember watching Smurfs growing up. I loved Snorkels and
Snorkels I liked Snorkels more than the Smurfs.
Yeah.
Something about the underwater aspect always got me. I loved it.
I want to put my finger in their snorkel. I don't see what it does. I always thought about that.
But, their eyes get really big.
Yeah, I think so.
Art just created the first supervillain of the snorkel universe.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, that I watched all the stuff that was available to me at the time and really filled all that void. And I was playing outside, man. I was not sit down in front of the TV kid at all.
You see, it was kind of different for me because, I grew up in the Saturday morning cartoon era before Nickelodeon and all that. So you were Saturday mornings, you were sitting there for your first 3 or 4 hours watching cartoons, and then you were out the whole day after that.
But that cartoon hour, do you remember what time that started at, Gary?
I think it was 7 in the morning.
Yeah, it'd be sick. By the time I was a kid, I remember when Pokemon got its first wave, American craze wave. I was in 5th or 6th grade. And I'm like, what are these cards? I like cards. What are these? These weird little things. And people were like, it's a cartoon. And apparently, I tell my mom and dad, wake me up at 6 o'clock Saturday. I want to see what this is they're talking about. Because it would only come on ridiculous early on Saturday for to my knowledge at the time. I'd never be able to do it. I would come staggering a little bit after that and catch oh, screw this. We're gonna watch Rick plays kazoo on Fox Kids. Catching cool shit on USA Network.
See, I was always up early, so I was always watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't up at 6 early though. I would be up shortly after that.
Yeah, I had to get up early too because the Superboy show was on at like 7:00 in the morning in my.
I watched that in the evening time. You're talking about when the Salkind brothers did the actual TV show, right?
Yeah, in Rhode Island, it was on at 7 in the morning.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I was catching a rerun or anything, but I remember like we would come back from Sunday night church, and we would sit down right here on the floor, and my mom would be on the couch right there, and she'd be grading papers, getting stuff ready, and we turn on the TV, and not long after that time span of coming home from Sunday night church, getting something light to eat, next thing you know, the music will play, and we're flying over the bridge in the water. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go.
It wasn't. They weren't reruns. They were just syndicated, and the local station could play it whenever they wanted to. So
got you. Well, this was like the early.
Also
90s.
had Superboy in the evening.
Yeah, 7:00 in the morning. Oh man.
Oh yeah, you were probably catching it in syndication, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cliff said he got it the same time I did, and I'm not.
Yeah, but it was basically it was up to the local station to play it whenever they wanted. They would get it on a Friday or whatever, and they could play it anytime over the weekend that they wanted.
And those kind of shows, those went away with streaming syndicated shows like Superboy or Xena or whatever that they had.
Funniest home video was a staple in this household. Like, like that man, I loved America's Funniest Home Video, and of course, dude, like Family Matters, Full House. Like I've seen every episode of Family Matters, Full House, and Fresh Prince. Fresh Prince is probably my favorite television show that's ever existed on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched like 9 seasons, like numerous times or some shit. Like
wow,
I love that show. That was the jams. Those three.
And they're doing like a remake of that now on what is it, Amazon or something?
They did that reunion special when HBO Max first dropped. It was amazing.
Exactly, Eddie. I'm binge watching it right now on Amazon Prime.
Kevin Sorbo and Lucy Lawless, Hercules and Xena, those were bangers too.
Lucy Lawless will always be a favorite of mine. I even loved her in the Ash versus the Evil Dead series as Ruby. She was great as the villain in that.
I liked her in Spartacus.
She was good in Spartacus. She was good in the remake of Battlestar Galactica. As one of the
sidelines. She ages perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Spartacus I've never seen, believe it or not, and I hear nothing but great stuff.
You like looking at dicks?
It's on Tubi, and it's a little more than that. It's on Tubi. It's a lot. You can watch it on Tubi.
A lot of penises, Gary.
Yeah, exactly.
They're breezy too. I'm not even joking.
Well, I mean, I've seen the Lucy Lawless bits, but so that's what I cared about.
Hunter was a favorite of mine in the 90s. Hunter.
And the song off? Oh, okay. Yeah, Kevin Todd Smith. Yeah, that poor guy died in a fall accident.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, he was on a set of something and he fell, and that was it. So one of those unfortunate accidents. One of those on-set ones. Now, Mark, what was your first live action superhero that just blew your mind? Obviously you saw the Hulk. We had Wonder Woman, but I'm talking cinema-wise, like at the theater. You're in a theater and you see the big screen superhero for the first time, and it just wowed you. Like, I mean, maybe Christopher Reeve for you, but maybe before that, who knows?
No, it's actually seeing it on the big screen. Or just a theatrical movie at home too.
Well, just theatrical.
My first theatrical superhero movie was Batman Forever. And dude, this was a huge argument in my house when Batman Returns came out.
Yep.
My mom wouldn't let me and my brother go see it because it was rated PG-13. And my mom, if you met her, this would make sense. Paul gets this. Like, it says PG-13. You're not 13. You're not supposed to go see it. Like, right. I'm not thinking any deeper into it because I know everything I need to know. And then there's my dad. It's Batman. So, long story short, we weren't allowed to go see that. A whole nother household argument. My dad ended up getting to take my brother to go see Jurassic Park, but I had to get left at home, compromise. But the first the first one that I actually got to see on the big screen, superhero wise, was Batman Forever, I believe.
Was that the Clooney or Kilmer one?
That's Kilmer. I saw Batman Returns the day it came out, like at home on VHS, but I wasn't allowed to see it in the theater because I'm not 13. Like, you can't tell some people some things. It's just
right. What's funny is my dad and mom didn't care. Like, we know you can handle it. They would drop me off to an R-rated movie and just go in and buy the ticket. Look, he's good. Like, sweet.
Well, that explains your writing career. But
look at that. That's fired already.
My dad does care. He just knows that Batman's okay. Like,
right.
It's gonna be dark, but when Starship Troopers came out, like, dude, I love
Starship Troopers.
All Verhoeven films, but Starship Troopers, absolutely love it. And when it came out, my dad let me watch it, but there's 2 moments where he just slaps me in the face with his hand, and there's 1 moment where he hits mute.
The shower scene?
I just thought, shower scene and Dizzy getting out of the sleeping bag.
I was gonna say, yep.
And the one F word, he just hits mute.
Yeah. And you're like, Dad, I want to know more.
Oh, I can say Dad did his part.
And it was funny because when the Conan the Barbarian movie came out, and I begged my parents like relentlessly to take me to see it, but they knew there was nudity in it. So they took me to see it, and it was at a theater. So when that part was coming up, I, of course, had to put my head down, couldn't watch that scene. Then when I finally see it a couple years later, I'm like, oh, that's all it was? I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But, like, not seeing it creates a more of a taboo situation where you're just so curious, like, why couldn't I see it? What, just your kid curiosity just eats you away. So you just want to know something.
Yeah.
Dude, what's crazy? You got me like just thinking about like going to see movies and stuff. I was 10 years old and convinced, like by the time I was 10, we were allowed to go see PG-13 movies. Anaconda with Jennifer Lopez, literally sitting in the Dollar Theater. We were able to go to the Dollar Theater for free. The guy who owned it was downtown with his wife, and he got held up at gunpoint. And my dad was a beat cop who saw it, went intervene and got the guy, tackled the guy, took him down, and saved them from getting robbed or shot or going out like Bruce's parents. So for the rest of our lives, we were allowed to go to that theater and see movies for free. And it was a Dollar Theater, so they would go to the big cinema, then they would make their way down to that one, and it was right down the street from our house. So we'd go see a lot of movies. I remember going there to see Anaconda, and that was literally the first time in my life in any context at all that I heard the F word, period. Didn't even know that word existed until I saw that movie.
Fish.
Ice Cube was
a year later, I heard it again when we saw Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Was the F word fish?
It was.
Fish.
But that's just for context, like how we were raised. We weren't sheltered at all, but we weren't exposed to stuff that like that's why like I watch stuff like that's like I let my kids watch PG-13 movies, but I watch them first, and if there's F words in there, they're not going to hear those. I don't around my kids the way I talk to y'all. Y'all are adults, they're not.
Right. I got chastised because Vince was a baby, and I got and I was sitting there watching Buffy, and my wife was like, "Why are you doing that? He's a baby. He can't tell what's going on. It's fine."
I caught so much from the wife. Y'all remember that movie Overlord that came out a couple of years ago?
So good. Such an underrated gem.
And it's the Cloverfield universe. That's canon to the Cloverfield
right.
movies. Bro, as soon as that dropped, I bought it on streaming. Finn's like 1 year old, sitting in my lap, watching it with me, and then Kyle comes home from work. What are you doing?
Right.
I'm like, dude, I'm trying to stop those evil guys over there. Stop the Axis now.
And see, I didn't know that was a Cloverfield movie until you had mentioned it to me before, because I'm always promoting that movie. It's so good. It's such a great watch. And if you want to see Wyatt Russell just be
beast mode.
Yeah.
Wyatt Russell is fantastic, and as is the rest of the cast. That movie just nails all its aspects, and it's such a great mix of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to the idea of fandom, because with your channel, your slogan's "Fandom Happens Here."
Yep.
But fandom really, you got that from your household and from your dad and from your LCS and just the way you grew up. Fandom was always a living thing for you.
Mm-hmm. Is that a question?
No.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just So I mean, it's just a natural part of your channel because it's just part of who you are.
Yeah. I think it's a fun song because we're all fans of something, and I've always like had that idea of like I like to live in my fandom, like when something is happening and it's exciting, I like to lean into it. And like I buy like the movie toys and stuff.
Right.
I've done that for forever. If you would have caught like Biggie's one of his 1,000 streams he did the other day, like I was able to pop on while I was out and like filing books. He's showing off toys, I'm showing off toys. I've got like the X-Men won the movie toys and Spider-Man. I've always I like to live in that excitement, that feeling you get when you get truly excited, like that X-Men 97 feeling.
Right.
I love that. That's why I love the hobby.
Right.
That feeling you get when Cyclops says to me, my X-Men, that is why we're in the hobby. Like, that's what it all boils down to. It makes us feel good.
Right.
And I like to feel good.
Right. And you're funny because to me, you're one of the more critical people out there when it comes to stuff, right? And I know it's because you take it very seriously and you don't want to be disappointed by your fandom. But I think with you, which doesn't come across with some other people, is you're not always criticizing something to criticize in it. You legitimately want something to do better if it's being lazy in your view. Where
I call it like it is. That's where people get lost. If you hear me shitting on a Disney property, people are going to start thinking that I'm just you just want to crap on Disney. No, if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. I'm able to separate. There's two categories for me. Like there's did I enjoy it? Because you can enjoy bad stuff, like stuff that's intentionally bad, and then looking at it as objectively as you can, being that it's an art form, is it objectively good? There's two different ways to look at stuff. So when I'm being critical of stuff, I'm not talking about my enjoyment of it. I'm talking about the objective qualities of it. Did they set out to do this and did they achieve that? Well, they set out to do this and no, they didn't achieve it. That sucked. Yeah. Did I have fun watching it? Sometimes not.
Well, as I said, I mean, this is definitely Mark's opinion.
Yeah, this is the part that goes over tons of people's heads. Like I literally saw somebody put out their opinion on Madam Web. They're like, "Oh, it was close to an A, but it wasn't quite there. It was a little slow at parts." Like, are you saying like what does that mean? Like no, you're talking enjoyment. Like those are two different things.
It's funny you mentioned that too because the Sony superhero movies are some of the only ones where I will just give it a hard pass and not even go to the theater for because I'm just like Sony's just disappointed me too many times with what they've put out, and I'm a pretty easy watch. Like I just want to be entertained for a few hours, and I liked Morbius more than other people did. I didn't think Morbius was as bad as everyone else did, but I thoroughly didn't enjoy either Venom movie, even though there was a lot of people that liked it. But I also didn't really put that out there because I didn't want to try to hurt someone else's enjoyment of it. But for me, Sony misses a lot, and I think part of the problem is that they put a lot of people on properties that have never read the material. They don't know anything about the characters that they're asking these directors and writers to invest in, who just want a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think the other thing that when you critique things is you are never telling anybody that they're going to feel the same way. You're always, you should go and decide for yourself. This is my opinion. This is my interpretation of what I just saw. Take it for what it's worth, but I'm not telling you not to go see it. To your point, I was going to say to the point you just said, Gary, is, people would not have gone to see Morbius if they just, because 90% of the reviews were bad, but you've never done that.
That's a fantastic example too, though, because like this is a concept that just, I don't know why people have such a hard time grasping it sometimes, like having that like two ways of reviewing something. Like, did you have fun watching it? Yes, I had fun. does that equal good movie? No,
Right.
no. Like it, but like it's kind of like when there's so many
Like Flash
conversations
Gordon.
that-
I love Flash Gordon. Is it a
That-
good movie? Probably
Yes.
not. But I love
Well,
Flash Gordon. I
again,
can
like,
watch it
what was their-
anytime.
Whoa, Gary, what was their goal? Did they achieve it? You know what I'm saying? Like, look,
Right.
that
Dude, I will watch that movie at any point. I love that movie so much.
Morbius is a textbook example, to be honest with you, because like you can actually look at it like in like constructing film type way. It's not a good movie. Like it's
Right.
poorly edited to the point that it messes up the story. There's plot holes in it because of it.
Yep.
That makes a bad movie. Like definitionally, that's a bad movie.
Yeah, but I still enjoyed it.
Loved watching it. I had the time of my life when it like dropped.
Right.
They dumped it on Netflix, and I didn't go see it in theaters. I've heard
Oh, I
nothing
saw it
but
at the
bad-
theater.
Oh my god! I'm
And
sorry
I don't
for
even,
you.
and you know what's funny is I don't even like Jared Leto, and I still liked Morbius.
I like Jared Leto, and I'm not blind. Like I know, like man, like 1 + 1 = blue cheese for that guy with these roles that he gets. But
Mhm.
but I mean, he still did Requiem for a Dream. He still did Fight Club. He still has Dallas
Well,
Buyers Club.
I'm not negating his talent. He just doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm saying he hasn't. His misses are always in like the comic book realm. You know, Joker. Well, he did fantastic in Blade Runner 2049 for that small part he had. It's really just Joker and Morbius. Like, what else did he flop?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go Tron Ares. Let's go. Please don't mess up Tron, please.
So let's talk about that for a second, because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. Is there are some people out there that have a specific, the original's the best, and you should remake these things. And I was wondering your opinion on that, because they are remaking a lot of movies. I mean, I just remember seeing a clip for the Roadhouse movie, and you're talking about Tron, and I mean it's like they're recycling what was already out there. I'm waiting for the Patrick Swayze Ghost movie to be remade sooner or later.
After
It
they
will.
actually discover Ghost, yeah, they can get him back for it. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying. I mean, like,
Well, for me, and they do this. The original for me always exists.
Yeah.
So if they remake something and it's not good, I still have the original. Now, do you want the remake to be good? Yes.
Sure.
But
Well,
take Superman. Christopher Reeve is
was
always
a
my
remake.
favorite.
You know what I'm saying? Brian De Palma remade Scarface with that. Al Pacino Scarface is a remake.
yeah,
Like that-
So is
Certain
John
circumstances
Carpenter.
are exactly right. He says having remakes always been a thing they have. I mean, A Star Is Born has been made like 4 or 5 times.
Right.
Yeah,
At least
three
at
that
least
I can
three.
remember.
Three that I
Yeah.
know of.
Right.
Yeah.
Original Chris Christopherson and then Bradley Cooper,
Right.
Mhm.
and probably more than that. But I'm a fan of the concept of them. I don't like it when we're like y'all see like the trends, like how we went through like a decade where what we got were the prequel decade.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
let's do like Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, and wrong. Like they just did that. That was what was in. But remakes are always like, if we can't do it, let's try to remake something fun. I rewatched The Magnificent Seven a few weeks back, and thank God they remade that. The original is a
That
masterpiece.
remake was great.
The
Yeah.
remake's a masterpiece, and now we have two. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And I mean, the studio basically what they're saying is, you know what, it worked once.
Let's try it again.
Long enough time has passed that maybe now we
Right.
get a whole new generation to, and we put it with people that this generation will be familiar with, and
Right.
that's
Yeah,
why they
that's
do
I'm
remakes.
not, I personally don't have a problem with it. I'm always looking for new. I just wanted to know his opinion on it. Whether
no,
he
I
thought
think
it was,
there's some stuff that like stuff that's franchised, obviously, like comic book stuff that it'll always be coming out. It's been coming out since 1940. That's when the
Right.
first silver screen superhero hit, and it's been coming nonstop since then. It'll always come out because this is a syndicated property, like with comic books, and
Or
so
even
that's one
action
thing.
properties like James Bond, Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise.
It's hard to like. I've got when he's done, it better be done. You can't top Tom Cruise in that franchise. We haven't had to go through that first switch yet, but.
Mm-mm.
James Bond, that's a legacy character that's been rebooted one time now, and who knows what they'll do going from here. But I'm excited to see. I don't think we I guess like relative to when it came out, there's really never been a terrible Bond movie. I mean, looking back, they get corny through the Roger Moore era. Some of those Brosnan ones in there where it could have been better, but they're still action packed.
I love when I was a kid. I remember watching Remington Steele with my mom, and the thing in our household was like he needs to do James Bond. So
that was pretty much that was his
out,
proving ground. Yeah,
when those movies came out, I was so ready for him as James Bond. So I loved him, especially since he made one with one of my favorite actresses ever, which Michelle Yeoh.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that could do the action that those movies need.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not against it. Like I really like this other trend that they have, and it's wait a decade and make the sequel. Like when taking it back to Tron, we got Tron like 84,
right?
85.
Yeah. I think
we got Tron Legacy and we got Tron Legacy in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Now here we are in 2024. When are we getting Ares? 2025. Like we're hungry for it, and you're not remaking it. You're adding the next bit of the story. Avatar, 13 years.
It's kind of like a Boston album, right? They make one like every 10 years.
Yeah. So if you have enough like successful franchises, why do you need to churn them out every 2 years, or why do you need to dip into the well 3 times a year? That makes zero sense at all on any level whatsoever.
So you don't like the Lord of the Rings approach where they like shoot a bunch of stuff at once?
I love that. That's called the Richard Donner approach. And that's where you film your entire film in one go. James Cameron did it for Avatar this recent time. Richard Donner did it for Superman the movie and Superman 2. Peter Jackson did it for Lord of the Rings. I think that's absolutely smart because it's one movie. It's one movie. Yeah.
Well, that and you're trying to lock that cast down too. So it's
right.
Yeah, they're in the moment, and it's also a great way to financially. You know what I mean? That's like you don't have to get anyone back here 3 times over. Like Avatar spent $1 billion filming Avatar 2, but they also 100% filmed Avatar 3 at the same time, and the majority of Avatar 4, where all that was left is post-production stuff. So the day Avatar 3 comes out, the first person to buy a ticket, 100% of proceeds go to the green. Like it's all profit already. Like that's smart.
But James Cameron's always been ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and if you were doing Lord of the Rings, right? If you're doing it the traditional way, Elijah Wood would look, 8 years older by the time Return of the King came along.
By the third one.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, with these epics, you kind of have to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. For sure.
Wow. That's good. So your favorite on-screen portrayal of a hero?
Christopher Reeve Superman. Is there even another option to that?
There's the gold standard. He's the platinum standard.
Yeah, it's just
because not only did he just nail it, he understood the character in a way like a writer like Tom King does. He understood what made him special. He understood why the character had endured and why the character was loved, and he understood what made the character. And
the range on that man.
Yes,
the range on Christopher Reeve is just stunning. I don't know how many people have actually gone back and watched that movie, or even gone back and watched it today. And dude, I can't stress this enough. I watched Ang Lee's Hulk the other day. Just got a wild hair up my butt after DJ posted that X-Men ranking video. I'm like, well, I've seen the X-Men movies pretty recently. It's been about a year since I've seen, probably more, since I watched Ang Lee's Hulk from start to finish. So watched it, and I'm like, dude, this is how bad like our current like atmosphere movie stuff is. That when I watch this, I'm like, bro, this is actually fire. Like, I'm like, why is my brain telling me this is amazing right now? Like this serious, story-driven, long thing. Like, dude, we didn't get Hulk till 47 minutes into the movie, and I was completely okay with that.
I saw that movie in the theater and loved it.
Yeah, I did too. The day it came out, I loved it too. But I was also like, I don't know, it feels different. It was very like, dude, it was such a like a Hail Mary for Ang Lee. The way that he edited it to be like comic panels and stuff. Go back and watch it now. Like it's not so surprising. It's not so, when Howard Chaykin did American Flag, those panels were revolutionary. Now you go back and look at them, it's just an easy read. Right. So go back and watch Ang Lee's Hulk. It's not so revolutionary. You're like, dude, this is just one of the most gorgeous superhero movies I've ever seen. And like the character study aspect you said, it is so deep.
Yeah.
Right.
And talk about, like he hulks out at 47 minutes. He hulks out again like 20 minutes later. And then about 15 minutes later after that, you get 45 minutes straight of just pure Hulk.
Right.
Like in the coolest Hulk scenes we've ever got with him doing the dog fight.
Yeah.
Like helicopters, jets.
Even when he was Hulk, you saw him thinking. You saw like pathos in the character.
And it's cool knowing that it's Ang Lee in the mocap suit too.
Oh, yeah. And the behind the scenes on that are great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's like, it's easier for me to put on the suit and just do it than try to tell someone else what I want them to do.
So
you just wanted to be the Hulk.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm that deep dive nerd. Like when I buy a movie, I watch every special feature on it.
Oh, yeah.
I go through everything. The commentary,
I'm the same exact way. The twos, because DVDs, Blu-rays, before Blu-rays, because they weren't around when that came out. But I remember vividly going out to the Walmart in Evans with my brother, and because I didn't have a car, he did. And we rode out there because it was new movie day. I had enough money to pick up one movie. If you get them the day they came out, they're typically $5-7 cheaper than if you wait the second week. They go to full price. And Hulk came out and Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines released on the same day. And like, man, I could only get one. And I love the Terminator universe. I'm like, well, I'm definitely getting Hulk. And I sat there for 20 minutes in front of that end cap, convincing my brother to please buy me Terminator 3. Please, I'll give you the money back. And they were both either single disc options or 3-disc special edition options. And I had to have the 3-disc for both of them.
Of course.
Watch all the special features.
Sometimes I watch them before I watch the movie. I'm a nerd that way.
Right. Or if I've seen the movie in the theater and I buy it, I'll listen to the commentary first. I'll watch the movie with the commentary on, and then I'll watch.
What's your favorite commentary that you can remember?
I really like the commentary on John Carpenter's The Thing. I think is great.
Obviously, we knew you were going to say that, but the next one, what's the second favorite?
Oh, let's see. The Abyss.
Oh, dude, I can't even imagine how wild.
I love everyone when that movie came out. I was so I bought the novel and read it. I love The Abyss. I had never understood anyone that had a problem with it. Man, that scene when he's trying to bring her back to life
after she drowned.
Yeah, like I was like, I was done. I was like, that movie. Ed Harris, so good. Mary Elizabeth Monster Antonio, amazing. You had the one of the top action guys at the time, Michael Biehn, on there, just completely unhinged. And that movie is a perfect movie to me. Everyone's like, oh, pink aliens are stupid. I'm like, I loved it. I'm like, that's the movie that cemented James Cameron as one of my favorite movie makers.
So mine has to be. So first off, this sounds crazy, but Sucker Punch is my number 2. Wow. Listening to Zach, like this is like before like the whole Snyderverse on it, but Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch. There's gimmicks with movie releases. They use like the movie industry, the physical media market is heavily to blame for extended cuts and director's cuts existing and them doing condensed versions for theatrical releases because they want to get 2 purchases out of every movie at the theater. And then the extended scene, the uncut one, the director's cut when it comes out. Warner Brothers' gimmick was something they called maximum movie mode. And it's where not only do you get director commentary, the director, like the screen will slide over and the director will come in and actually talk to you and stuff. And the maximum movie mode version, the commentary for Sucker Punch is incredible. Because that dude, like when they say visionary filmmaker, like you don't have to like his vision, but listen to that guy. Listen to that guy explain his process, like and where his mind is and why he does what he does. Like you ain't got to like it, but enough people do that justify giving this guy money to make movies. And
I like this Dawn of the Dead. I saw that in the theater.
You know who wrote that?
No,
James Gunn.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. Nice.
Oh, because when I saw that, I'm like, finally, fast zombies. Like, why would every zombie be slow? Like,
yeah. I didn't realize that was a low budget movie. Couldn't tell. 300 low budget movie. Couldn't tell.
Right.
But my favorite commentary track on anything was Prometheus when we finally returned back.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I love Scott going in on that because there's so much in that's left. I don't want to say to the imagination. It was left for the intended sequel that was supposed to be called Paradise.
Right.
But they kind of stepped back away from that and went with Covenant.
Which is too bad.
Yeah, but we still got the story though. Like they just changed the name because they go back to the home world, which was supposed to be paradise, but it was already.
You just
David.
they gave the lead to the wrong person though. Like Michael Fassbender's a great actor, but nobody wanted to follow David.
Well, I was about to say that's the thing. Like
so
you can't.
That's where they dropped the ball on that sequel because a lot of people complain about Prometheus. I saw it in the theater with my best friend. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a spectacular movie, absolutely amazing. I was completely into the story, them expanding the universe. I loved all of it.
Jockey. We're going to explain the space jockey. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, and just her having in that one scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was amazing. A fun story about that. I was the store manager of Movie Stop around the time that came out. I was definitely working there, and I would talk to customers and hype up movies. Like I didn't work for the studios, but we get people to come meet at the theater around the corner for midnight movie releases, and we go as crowds and stuff. And when we went to go see Prometheus, this was back in the day when a midnight movie release means Thursday night, 12:01. You can't show movies before then. But because of the Aurora, Colorado thing, they pushed it back to we'll show them earlier on Thursday and get people home before shenanigans. But so we sit down at 12:01. Trailers start. Trailers run for 20 minutes. It's 12:30. We're ready for this 3-hour movie to start, and the Lure Act starts playing. And because it was in theaters at the same time, they put the wrong movie in. And then on top of that, it was a 3D version, and none of us were in there with 3D glasses, so we couldn't even. It took them forever to get it changed. We didn't get home till like 3:30 in the morning that night.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but that was good. I remember. Just in the beginning, it was just great seeing the engineers and everything. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I love that like that deep history pondering stuff. The whole thing was it was our origin. I thought that was fantastic seeing them pull up and seed the planet and everything. That was some Zachariah Hitchens type shit.
And now I'm really ready for this new one, Rhymeless, because I think Fede Alvarez is a very underrated director. I've loved everything Fede Alvarez has done. I think he's amazing.
What all has he done?
He did the first Evil Dead reboot, which I thought was great.
The one with the electric kitchen knife in the hand.
I was just gonna say I was gonna say that. And then that bathroom scene with the glass and that was great. Well, now I'm blanking because I'm old. There was one other movie he did I really liked, and I can't think of it right now.
To Jonathan's point, Neil Blomkamp, man, he would have been perfect for an alien movie, but he's supposed to be one day making the next District movie, District 14.
District 9 was another one that caught me by surprise. I loved that one when it came out.
I loved Elysium. Dude, I loved Elysium that he did when you had Sharlto Copley playing Kruger.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, shit.
See, now that's
I've never seen more realistic computer special effects in a movie outside of Avatar than I have in a Neil Blomkamp.
That's with Matt Damon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now that's something that probably a lot of people don't know about. He's you're really heavy into sci-fi too.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your absolute favorite sci-fi franchise? I know Dune's up there right now with the new one.
Yeah, I've been going balls deep into Dune. But that's super, super new. Like I was aware of Dune, caught pieces of stuff, but it's really just the new movies got me wanting to dive into it. And I told myself I'm not going to dive into anything out until I see Dune Part 2, like the Denny version, because I didn't want any spoilers. So as soon as I saw that, I've gone back and went into everything. I've been buying the books, the comics, because I love movie comics and stuff.
Right.
But it's as far as movie franchise, I think it has to be Alien, man. It has to.
Yeah. Oh, that first one.
Terminator 2 is hands down the greatest movie, action flick that's ever been made. It's just the best.
I would have guessed Avatar.
I would have. Avatar's so high on my list, but dude, Alien is I have Avatar stuff everywhere, but I still got
Mark always has stuff just at arm's length whenever he needs them.
Yeah, and when it comes all the I have all the novels for the Alien stuff, and dude, but by the time I started diving in heavily reading them, trying to find them in order, didn't realize that the novels are just the Dark Horse comic books adapted into novels. I've read this. I have all. I
didn't know that.
First people to do omnibus was Dark Horse back in the day. They would collect all the Alien, Predator. Mm-hmm. There was just something about that Alien franchise, Alien specifically, a lot of it has to do with my childhood. It was R-rated, so I had to wait for it to come on television, and that takes like 2 years from like screen to TV back then. But that's up there, and I think the only reason that one ranks higher than Terminator is because the sheer number of them that have been like really good that serviced the franchise. Where Terminator, you have 2 that service the franchise, 3 that's not kind of surreal. Like, did we really just drop the bombs? Did we do that? And then Salvation, that none of us were ready for. Like, we weren't ready to live in a world after the bombs with Christian Bale as John Connor. But you go back and watch that movie. Mick G did a phenomenal job making it, and it's badass. But then Genesis was just, I had a blast watching it, but it's not good.
No, but I like Genesis. But yeah,
I've watched it. I've watched it literally no less than 10
and I
times.
like the new one the last one they had made.
Dark Fate was so badass, like for John. I'm like, let's go. But it still was
the Gabriel Luna one. I liked a lot. I like him as an actor too.
Yeah, but the Sarah Connor Chronicles I thought was the best thing that they've done.
Oh, I love the Sarah Connor
outside of 1 and 2. Yeah, but I think just overall, Alien is just stands as a stronger franchise. But I would put Terminator 2 above, as a single movie, above all the other ones. I love the RoboCop franchise. I mean, it's really like that Dark Horse franchise. If you think about it, all those properties, they were kind of taboo, but they were like the coolest things that were releasing as a kid, like RoboCop, Terminator, Alien, Predator. That's in my mind. That's like all one universe.
Total Recall.
Total Recall, good.
And I like the Total Recall remake, and nobody liked it. And I like that too. I loved it,
bro. When me and Pops walked out of the theater, we were out of breath. That movie went so hard, it just nonstop, nonstop.
And that was a more faithful adaptation too. It was just.
And there's when it released on disc, it released with the director's cut. That is,
I love Ex
Machina. So much to it.
Yeah, Ex Machina is great. That's one of those movies that people really haven't seen that I think is really good. And another one I think like a sleep. So I'll have you name a sleeper one. For me, a sleeper movie, and it got good accolades. But one I love, I think is fantastic, and just a great story, beginning to end. Very involved was Annihilation.
That's a Denny film.
Yep, I loved Annihilation.
That screaming bear, dude. It just does something to get under your skin.
Right, and the cast was amazing, and just the situations in it.
Yeah, like concepts. And it was beautifully shot too.
But I still watch that movie like once every couple months. I love it.
Have you seen Arrival?
Yeah, Arrival's great too.
That one right there will change your life. Like by the end of it, you're just like, oh my God, I'm dead inside. Oh.
Wait, was that with the one with Jeremy Renner in it?
Yeah.
Okay, I know which one.
And Amy Adams, or is it? I always get Amy Adams and Rachel. Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, I watched that one. That one was good.
Can confirm. Gary thinks all white women look alike.
There you go. Mark it down. 10:03 p.m. on a Thursday night.
There you go.
But now are you I know you're not. Well, I don't know you to be a big Star Wars guy. You may be, but were you a prequels guy or a non-prequels guy?
Like from the original trilogy through the prequels, like I can sit there and run trivia night with the best of them for those movies, and then beyond that, like I played some video games and stuff, but I never dove into the expanded books. And then, like I immediately was like, "What the just happened?" As soon as episode 7 dropped, me and my dad went to a 4 a.m. showing because it was that sold out from midnight all the way down. The earliest one we could get was 4 a.m. like premiere night. And we went. We were so excited. And we walked out. We're like, what was that? like it was like something's wrong with the Force.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, I loved it the first time when it was episode 4.
Yeah, I've been watching that movie my whole life. But they just like the fact that they literally rescripted A New Hope blew my mind. I was literally shocked. Like the movie looked good. Like why did they show Kylo's face? Like I was so hyped for Kylo Ren. Like, dude, who is this guy? And Captain Phasma, I'm like, why is she shiny? Like there was so much I was excited for.
But then they did nothing with Phasma.
No, yeah, they did. They killed her without using her. That's something,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah.
There you go.
A better word is they wasted her. They wasted.
Yeah,
guys.
they
But, like,
wasted
this
her.
character had great.
Mm.
And you have Gwendolyn Christie, who would have been fantastic doing more with that character.
Yeah, it blows my mind the mismanagement of that trilogy, and that's what it was mismanagement. Like I don't think you can point the blame at any one person but Kathleen Kennedy, but
Certainly not the actors. The actors came in and did
or
their-
the directors
Yeah.
directors. Like JJ stepped away, and apparently Ryan Johnson couldn't even get the script for a number for the one he was supposed to be making and the next one to get the direction. Just had to wing it. And that's not his fault. That's the people you work for's fault for not going and getting you the script
right.
and hand delivering it to you. That's y'all's
Right.
job. So that just lets you know right off rip that they spent those billions of dollars on this beloved slice of IP, and they don't give two shits about it or the fans. Like
The
wrong people have it.
The thing I didn't like is I hated the way they took out Han Solo,
That was crap.
and I hated the way they just turned Luke Skywalker into an old pussy type character.
As soon as he threw the thing over his shoulder, I was done.
Done.
I was like,
yeah, done.
I was like, the Luke you grew up with wouldn't do this. He was
Right, exactly.
Bro, they have Luke, Leia, and Han back, and never did they share screen time together.
which is nuts.
Ever. They killed Han off like unsanctimoniously. They made Leia into some space flying zombie mom. It was fucking weird. And then Luke. Like, like I was in the theater gripping Kyle's arm when Luke comes walking out. And he's staring at a line of AT-ATs, and they're bigger than we've ever seen them before. They're painted black. Like I'm literally in the theater going, here we go. They're going to make all this bullshit we just sat through worth it. Here we go. Then nothing, literally nothing. I'm like,
because when he came out, I'm like, all right, here's the redemption we're looking for. He's going to go through and tear all these guys a new one.
Right.
All he had to do, they didn't have to waste money on. All he had to do was put one hand out and just forcefully drag and watch all of them and just like domino get shoved all over. Like, oh my god, we would have flipped. That would have been it.
Yeah.
But it blows my mind because, like you said, I take these things seriously because they're a part of my life. Like, I don't know who it is before. I do know who it is, but I'm not going to call them out. When I've complained about these things in the past, and when I've seen other people complain about them, I've seen people say that you're acting entitled, like they belong to you. And to that, I will say they do belong to me, and they belong to you, and they belong to you, and you, and you, and anybody else who has invested your time, money, passion into these projects, because without that, they wouldn't exist. Doesn't matter who owns them, who has the rights to them. And Marcus is right there. Whatever her name is in Ted Lasso, Waddingham is her last name. She owns a soccer team, and she's sitting at the table with all the other owners of the soccer teams, and they're about to sell them off, take the money and run, and knowing that it'll just ruin them. And she looks at all of them in disbelief and tells them, y'all may own these teams, but they don't belong to you. And that's exactly how I felt about all of these things I'm passionate about, that I've invested my life, my money, my time, investing my kids' imagination and stuff into them. Like, I learned so many principles from my dad teaching me about willpower through Green Lantern, like hope and how to be a good person. And the model perfect man you can be is right here with this red cape and an S on his chest. How does he treat people? And I catch myself saying that to Finn and Monkey. Like, what, are you a superhero or a supervillain? Would a superhero do that to somebody, or would he try to help them? I literally use that as examples. Like, these are our modern myths, like it means something to a lot of people. So when they're mismanaged purely out of laziness, greed, or stupidity, it's offensive on a level. Do I lose sleep over it? No, but do I love having a platform as small as it is that I can speak out and hope other people hear it. And it's crazy to think that
because you just want the fans to be treated with respect.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy to think that these people do not listen to these things. Like, there are some massively large YouTube channels that affect box office numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And now Disney knows it. Now Warner Brother knows it. And now they're coming out 3 years of just trashing our IPs, saying, you know what, maybe we need to tighten it up. Maybe we've been doing something wrong. We won't say what wrong, but we're going to do better. You know, like they're calling it now. Like people were like making fun of us complaining, but we were right. We were right to be complaining. Whether it was good or bad, it should have been better. Bottom line for all of us.
Bring back Gina Carano and the Mando.
Yeah, I love watching how this is going to play out. That's interesting shit right there.
I was so upset when they fired her. I was like, no.
Yeah. It turns out that they have that they had posted publicly to their offices and to their employees guidelines and regulations for how they're going to hire and continue hiring through series and stuff that are actually like defined as discrimination. It might not be so cut and dry with that one. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it
John's taking a shot at you.
Yeah, dude, to that point too. Yeah, absolutely. And I've said that before, despite the fact that I love it so much, it didn't resonate. And if you want it to succeed, if you want it to be healthy, it has to resonate. Like I've read so many comics and watched so many movies. Like it wasn't that harsh to me of the Snyderverse, right. But you're playing to a general audience. Like this is a whole generation Superman, you know, this is a whole generation right. Batman, and it just doesn't resonate. So you have
for
to.
For the record, Batfleck is one of my favorite Batmans. Him and Keaton are my two. He had the size of Batman. Him and Keaton were the only two in my opinion only that could play both Bruce Wayne and Batman convincingly. Mm-hmm. All the other ones who did it, they did one or the other well, but they didn't really nail both for me.
And visually, like the choreography, the fighting, and the stuff. Like the first time we saw Batfleck was the cop that was scared walking through the house, and he's just up in the wall.
What an image, right?
What?
And my biggest loss for me, Mark, is we didn't get a solo Batfleck movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not one. Mm-mm.
Like, man, I wanted one so bad. I just wanted to see him be a badass Batman straight in his own film for 2 hours.
That would have been insane because, you know, the plan was to fight Deathstroke, Joe Manganiello.
Yeah.
And that poor guy, I feel bad. Every time he gets close to a franchise, it falls out for him.
Right.
And he's good. And that cameo at the end of Justice League with him was
amazing.
Great.
Yeah, amazing.
When he shows up on the ship?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just such an odd angle to take for that whole franchise. Like, let's start our movie universe with old Batman. Wait, what?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what? Yeah, that was always odd. But I get it. Like, again, like, because like getting the Dark Knight Returns and understanding like we're doing, like it wasn't hard to tell we're doing a deconstruction style story. Like this is Watchmen style storytelling with DC characters. We're literally just doing deconstruction stories. And that's just what Snyder likes. And for me, I mean, for a lot of people, there's like, obviously I'm not alone in this whatsoever. We wouldn't have got the Snyder cut. But for a lot of people who've just spent so much time with these characters, it's absolutely fun to deconstruct them for the first time on film.
Right.
Think, the first Batman on a movie screen for an audience was in 1940.
Yeah.
It's okay to do an adaptation of a different comic version of him. You know, it's still from the comic.
And I was one of the original guys. Like when they announced Michael Keaton as Batman, I was excited for it. And everyone was trashing it. I was like, no.
I was too young to know the difference.
Well, they look at, you know, they would look and see what he had done in the past and go, oh, it's not fitting who he is. And all
I didn't know he was a comedian. We're doing
I
know he was a comedy role guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole thing was just everyone saying you can't have Batman be Beetlejuice or vice versa or whatever. It's like, you know.
Right. And
who would have thought Bruce Willis would be an action hero from Moonlighting, which was a comedy.
Exactly. That's what I'm hearing.
Under the boardwalk.
And
let's not forget his extensive singing career either, Gary.
Yeah.
Right? The Return of Bruno?
I'm trying to remember what was the name of that TV
same with Eddie Murphy's.
That TV show that had it was
James put Eddie on.
aliens, and it had
V.
it's like they were all living together. and
Alien
it had-
Nation.
no.
Third Rock from the Sun.
Third Rock from the Sun,
Oh,
which had
John
Yes, that-
Lithgow's an amazing
Joseph
actor.
Michael Levitt.
well, it had John Lithgow in it, and
Yes.
John Lithgow. I mean, man, there's like a couple of movies he did where he was just absolutely evil. I'm
Yeah.
like, I mean, when I watched it, I was like, that can't be the same guy from Third Rock.
He was the
And-
Trinity killer in Dexter too.
I was gonna say he played a really bad guy in Dexter. He was phenomenal.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in that too. Third Rock from the Sun.
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just, I think that's some people's mentality is like, oh, well, that's all he's ever done, and he can't do it. There's no range.
People can't separate an actor from certain role, and if you're a trained actor, you have it's getting shoehorned into something's got to be terrible because
Yeah.
you have more capabilities, and hopefully you get your chance to prove those capabilities. Not everybody does, and then some people do get the chance, and then you see why they got shoehorned sometimes.
You never want to see an actor get typecast, but we're the first people to try to typecast them. You
Right.
can't do that. You can't do
Right.
that.
Well, that's happening with Henry Cavill now, right? Oh, who should he be in Marvel? Hyperion. No, let him play something different. We've already seen his version of Superman. Let him do something else.
His career's been so difficult for him because of like just rough studio goes, Just I don't even want to see him get intertwined in Marvel stuff. They're under quiet construction right now. They're trying to be as low key about it as they can, but they are doing massive shakeups and firings and retoolings, and no one needs to be near that until they figure out what they're going to do.
Let's bring it back to the new X-Men 97 a second, because one of my takeaways from the first episode, Mark, is I was so at the end I was so mad. I'm like, and this isn't James Marsden's fault. I'm like, why didn't we get this Cyclops ever in the movies?
Dude, I was glad because like in the last 5 or so years in the comics, they've done everything they can to make everyone hate Cyclops, and they make it like if you ask anybody reading X-Men, their favorite character is always Storm or Jean Grey now.
I've always liked Cyclops though.
Well, I did too. Like one of my favorite toys is the old X Factor Cyclops toy, that the light button. He's repainted to look like Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom. Me and my dad did that when I was a kid.
Well, he always cared about the team first. Cyclops always cared about the team, and he always took any decision he made really heavily, and it really affected him, and it really wore on him. And I like that they kept Wolverine a dick in this one.
Dude, that was hilarious. He's coming. Who? Apocalypse?
Oh man!
Oh, the baby, you idiot!
Right.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was cool seeing, like C. Bizzle said, his favorite's Colossus. It was great seeing Colossus in there for a split second when Morph was going through the character. Dude, going from Archangel and
Archangel, come on! When he turned into Archangel, I was like, yes. And then
no, the
did
years
Wolverine need saving? No, Wolverine would survive the fall. He'd heal up in a few minutes, but
that'd have been mean just to let him land. Like, you'll be fine.
It would have been great to see Cyclops be there. Go, no, let him fall. He's a dick.
Would have been awesome.
How about where he Bishop jazzed up Wolverine's claws at the end?
That was a great. My only question with that, like, wouldn't all of his whole skeleton be jazzed up now?
Yeah, I mean, in theory. What did I say? I said Bishop. Yeah, Gambit. When Gambit charged him up, you're right. Yeah,
I knew what you meant though.
Yeah, but
oh god, that would have been hilarious if they would have been accurate with it. Like when he hit the Sentinel, all of his skin blows off. Like they need to do like a Venture Brothers rip on this. Y'all ever watch the Venture Brothers?
Mm-mm.
They had like a knockoff Fantastic Four show up in there. Instead of the Thing, it was the Callus, and it hurt. Like it was made of a callus. An Invisible Woman, only her skin went invisible, and she got self-conscious because you could see like her organs and stuff.
Oh man,
it's like a riff on Johnny Quest. It's fantastic.
You gotta love good parodies.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, we've been going for an hour and 20, so let's go around. We'll do some final questions. Paul, we'll start with you, sir. You got a final question for Mark?
Yes. is this a Silver Age DC? No, sorry, the wrong. If you could give, it's a two-part question. You have one comic that you can give to someone who has never read comics before. What would it be?
Ooh, good question.
And you're stranded on a desert island. You can take only one comic book. What would it be? And maybe they're the same, but maybe they're not.
Just a one single issue.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So
If I can, giving somebody one comic, it's Kingdom Come issue 1.
Okay.
Because they're going for issue 2 for sure. If I can only take one with me, I'm taking issue 4 of Kingdom Come. That's really a simple.
Nice.
I figured it would be Kingdom Come. But
Yeah.
Now, I on Joe's recommendation, and we'll get to your final question in just a second, Jim. On Joe's recommendation, because we all know I'm not the Superman guy, even though the Christopher Reeve Superman is one of the best superhero movies ever made, in my opinion. But he had me read. He recommended that I read Superman, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and I love that 2-issue story arc. Now I hear you talk a lot about All-Star Superman and how that's one of the greatest arcs too. So I think that's probably going to be one of my next ones I try to pick up and trade and do a read through.
Yeah, All-Star is the best Superman story that's been written outside of Kingdom Come. Because it's just a straight Superman story. And Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow has to be number 2.
Yeah, I loved it. Like I was going to read one issue one night and one the next, and I just sat down and read them both in a row. I couldn't. I'm like, I can't.
And that was the end of volume 1 of Superman. That's how it is.
Hmm. But Jim, your final question, and then we'll get to mine.
Okay, so if you had to pick a character to bring back as to make a comic of that is currently not on the new comic book day, who would the DC character be? I mean, I'm saying specifically DC, and who would write it and draw it? Like somebody that's not out there right now that you'd like to personally see them, like even if it's just a mini one, like a little 6-part mini series or something.
Hawkman, Brad Meltzer, Rags Morales.
Wow. Okay. Right on. Because I don't think they're doing any Hawkman, are they?
Rags can't draw fast enough to keep good work, and I don't even know what he's doing these days. But God, his art is amazing. Paul, when was the last time Rags did anything?
Oh, he does like fill in things right now. But I mean, it's funny because he really popped as part of Identity Crisis, and then after that, he kind of, he did some Justice Society stuff too. I think with Jeff Johns as well. But yeah, he hasn't done anything steady in a long time.
Yeah, but God, his artwork is like God tier.
Oh, the whole, I mean, they talk Identity Crisis, that whole thing where Ralph Dibny is cradling Sue in his arms.
And he's crying, and at the funeral when he's crying, holding his face together.
I mean, it probably is just something to do with speed, I would guess, like being able to turn it out. Yeah.
Oh, so in your opinion, Mark, and this is always going to be the writer, who's faster, Flash or Superman?
Oh, that's not an opinion. It's a well-known fact.
And it's
and Wally West is the fastest Flash.
You know who it is.
I always think it's Flash.
Yeah, it is. It's not.
That's his one power. You can't take that away.
Well, it's not that he just is faster. The fastest Superman's ever gone, taking the movie out of it, had to be at the tail end of Bendis' run when he went through like the multiple suns to knock out a fifth dimensional being with like a punch. But Flash could do that in a blink of an eye.
Oh, and before we get to my question, one of the most badass moments in the Snyderverse was when Superman is fighting all of them, and he's got Wonder Woman and Flash is running in. He's just tracking them with his eyes, and Flash is like, "Oh shit!"
In all sincerity, I'd love to touch on that. For me, the most badass moment in the Snyder Cut. Because you got to remember, like, I'm the Joker who took off from work. My wife took off from work. We set alarms, and we woke up and we watched it at 3 a.m. We did. And it wasn't a theatrical cut, but when the mother box lined up and they exploded, and Barry was outside, and he looks up at the explosion, and he just puts his hand up. He doesn't run, he doesn't move, he just simply puts his hand up, and he just shifted himself into the Speed Force, without moving. And I love that moment. The music kicks in, and the dialogue with him talking to his dad, like it sends, like I have goosebumps just thinking about it, man.
Nice.
But it was amazing. That's what I loved about the way they portrayed Flash. Everyone made fun of the way he runs. Bro, he's not simply running fast. This guy is inside of hyper time. You know,
Right.
like
I didn't have any problem with his running.
Right.
Huh?
I didn't have any problem with his
Dude,
running.
I loved it. Like just the way that he's like pushing through hyper time. He's not just running. The
Right.
bolt of lightning that struck Barry
He's not
Allen
going to the supermarket.
created hyper time. Like when you get into like that's what's so cool about DC is like that deity aspect of it. This guy is outside of reality. Like he's in his own little shit that only exists in DC Comics.
And if anybody ever asked you, Gary, canonically, Wally West is the fastest Flash.
Yeah, that's like Barry acknowledged it. Everyone knows it. Like in comics.
And I don't know a lot about Wally West because I was never a Flash reader. And when you're someone on the outside and you're just seeing what the media gives you, all they give you is Barry.
Well, right now, if you rewind rewinded about 15 years, all you got for a good 15 years was Wally. Barry wasn't even around. He was dead. Wally's in the cartoons that ran for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Wally.
Yeah, Wally was the one that was in the Justice League animated JLA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You know what? I do remember some of those now. It's been a while since I've seen them.
Like Marvel versus DC, Wally. Infinite Crisis, Wally. Like it was Wally through all of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Like Barry was dead from 86 to like 2013-ish, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So I wonder why they embraced that character so much in the live action media.
Well, because he had just come back.
Yeah, and I also think a lot of people, when they think of the Flash, they go back to the Silver Age, and the Silver Age Flash was Barry Allen.
Right.
And so, he's the one, he is the Silver Age when you say the Silver Age.
And I still love that cheesy show with
John Wesley Shipp.
With John Wesley Shipp.
My dad had the whole VHS collection, and all the spines of it created a blurry image of him running. $1 million per episode back then was a huge deal. But yeah, we had that on VHS growing up. Like, loved it.
Oh, same. I was watching it every week. That and Birds of Prey. I thought was a great TV show.
Yeah,
I had that on DVD.
They really leaned into the Matrix choreography in that one.
It was so, and the costumes on that show were great.
The only thing they messed up
on
as
Batgirl when you saw her, amazing.
The only thing they messed up on is the intro. How they had the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman suit, but they had that weird blonde hair hanging out of it.
Yeah, but that show was so. If that show would have came out 10 years later, I think it would have popped.
Ashley Scott was always on my radar. The actress who played Huntress, yeah,
she was great. All right,
and it was Earth 2. It was Earth 2 Huntress too. Like that goes to like my love of like the Earth 2 stuff,
But I still watch that series. I think it was so underrated. No one gave it; just didn't get its shot because of when it came out.
And Harley Quinn was the bad guy.
Yeah, and played by the Mia Sara from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It's weird how much stuff I have rolling around up here. I'm glad you mentioned that. I haven't talked about that one in a while.
It's a good show. I mean, Barbara Gordon has Oracle, and just. Did
you watch the Witchblade TV show that came out around the same time?
I didn't. I only saw a few episodes. I know they had that, and I know they had the anime of it too.
And what was that other dude's name? The Night Watcher or something like that? He was like a Image character as well. God, who was that guy? It only ran for one season. They were really trying to just.
I watched one called The Cape. I thought was good, and that didn't get.
The Cape was good, where he got it from the carnival. Yeah.
And I was so disappointed when it got canceled. I was like, no, this was actually decent. All right, my question, and I love asking this because, especially from comic nerds, because we all have our favorites. So you get to be killed off in a comic, and so whose comic are you getting killed off in? Who's writing it? Who's drawing you? And what are the circumstances of your death?
Have to be a DC Crisis. Chat GPT is writing it. Let's see. What is it? Pixlr AR is drawing it. And what was the last part of that question?
Circumstance.
How are you dying?
Yeah, the circumstance.
I guess killed by sentient computers.
A meteor shower.
Right?
That's a tough one. It's all been done.
Yeah,
A rogue
Actually, I thought
comment. A
Paul had
rogue
to
comment
do
on one of his videos comes to life.
yeah.
Stalks him down.
I would like to think that Jeff John comes in to write a crisis event, and I go out like John Kent was willing to go out in Dark Crisis and just stepping up to Doomsday and just closing your eyes and just buying everyone else time.
Nice. Very.
So that was such a moment. My God,
Paul had a great answer last week too. Paul's was great.
Yeah.
What was it? I was here. I don't remember what you said though.
I believe I was saving Superman. I dove in. Dark Side. His Omega beams was coming out of his eyes, and I dove in front of him.
It's going to get thrown through time.
Yeah, and because it's Dark Side, Jack Kirby would have to draw it. So
Yeah.
Well, let's go around the horn here, gents. First, Paul, what's coming up for you, sir?
I will be on Mark's channel on Sunday night, and then on Monday morning we will be together for our DC Comics deep dive. And then a week from yesterday, so next Wednesday night, we have Guess That Key. We have a gentleman who's in the chat tonight. John's Comics with Kids will be there, as well as Mark, of course, he's always there. Can't say that enough. And we have one of the authors of the Crashstone comic, Ryan Sargent. You may know him better as Fire Guy Ryan. So those will be our and me will be our four people that are trying to guess keys. So
Nice.
All right. And Jim, what's coming up for you, sir?
I am continuing to post my shorts daily on every Godzilla figure. Not every. There's way more than I'm posting, but I'm one a day. I missed yesterday. Shame on me, but trying to do one a day up until the movie on the 29th. And, I'm looking for a place to dig. I've got a place maybe if I can get the yes, but it's an old Catholic school, and I don't know if they're gonna let me do it or not. We'll see.
It's been around. Be afraid what you find there, Jim.
1800s, so
probably lots of silver.
So wish me luck on that. And then I'm on Gary B's show regularly on Thursdays.
There you go. Coming up for me, I'm gonna have Tuesday off from the 1011, but Wednesday you can catch me on Actual Dracula's channel.
Ooh.
And then we have Actual Dracula on his second 1011 on Thursday. So we'll double header, first on Drac's channel and then on my channel for the 1011. So we have that next Thursday, Jim.
Right on.
And so that's coming up. And then I'm booking up April now. We'll have Cliff back in the hot seat on the 4th of April to continue the conversation we're having with him. And Mark, what's coming up for you, sir?
I do a Legion Lair live stream hangout every Friday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. It's a semi-open panel. And then every Sunday night at 8:30, I do At Week's End, which is a spoiler-filled look back at the week and review the comics, movies, and news and all that good stuff. And then I drop a vlog every Wednesday on my channel. And I do a new DC Day stream every Tuesday. There's always stuff going on.
Now DC is going back to Wednesday releases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, as a DC fan, what do you think? That's good or bad?
I don't think it makes much sense because they're only moving their monthly titles like trade paperbacks and books and all that will still come out on Tuesdays. And they initially moved it because that's how movies come out every Tuesday, like DVDs and Blu-rays every Tuesday,
right?
So do books, not just comic books, but all books. If you go to Barnes & Noble, new books are out once a week on Tuesdays. So the only thing that's even new clothes have a similar release schedule for high-end clothes and stuff like that. They're just like comics and movies and everything else have a release day. The only thing that doesn't is toys. And then Wednesday is monthly comic books. It's always been an oddball. So I don't think it makes much sense at all, especially with a lot of publishers moving over to Lunar as well. It makes more sense if everything was on Tuesday, but I know it's a hard switch having been on Wednesday for this long, but I don't know. Doesn't affect me. I don't care.
All right. Yeah, you're still going to get your books and read them.
I'm going to find a way to read.
Right. And, there's ways to get them early. All right. I want to thank my guest, Mark. Thank you for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you on tonight and just
thank you for having me.
Fandom with you. I want to thank my co-host Paul and Jim. Thank you guys. The show is always better with a couple different personalities. We definitely need more than this stale guy here. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And of course, thank you to the chat. We had a great chat popping tonight. A lot of people contributing to what we were doing. Thank you guys so much. And as I like to end these things, keep it casual.